Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're diving into a really fundamental question. When we think about organizational management, it is incredibly tempting to just view it as a giant to-do list, just a series of checkboxes you're ticking off throughout the week. But honestly, that perspective entirely misses the magic. We really need to think bigger here. Management isn't a checklist, it's an architectural endeavor. You're building a cohesive, living, breathing system. Just like a master architect doesn't just blindly stack bricks together, a truly great manager constructs a system where every single element bears weight, provides structure, and creates an environment where incredible things can actually happen. So ponder this for a second. What actually holds a successful organization together? Is it a flashy new product? Is it massive venture capital funding? Maybe a charismatic CEO? Now look, while those things definitely get all the headlines, they aren't the true structural glue. The real glue is the hidden architecture of management. Before we dive into the structural blueprint itself today, I want you to keep your own organization in mind. Really think about the invisible forces keeping your daily operations from just collapsing into total chaos. All right, here is our map of the territory. The 8 distinct yet beautifully interconnected functions of management are planning, organizing, staffing, leading, coordinating, controlling, communication, and decision-making. These are essentially our raw construction materials.
Section 1. Designing the blueprint at the drafting table.
Think about it. Every single monumental structure in human history, from the Great Pyramids all the way to the tallest modern skyscraper, began as a concept on a drafting table. You simply cannot pour concrete before you know exactly where the walls are going to go. This theoretical visionary phase is where we project our future. We're deciding not just what we want to build, but precisely how we intend to build it. And that brings us right to planning. Notice the massive scope of this single pillar. Planning isn't just saying, hey, we want to grow this year. No, it is the rigorous definition of your mission, your core objectives, and your overarching strategies. But it also gets deeply granular, right? It's setting the precise policies, the daily procedures, the non-negotiable rules, specific programs, and, yes, the budgets. It's the difference between planning a tiny backyard shed and a massive commercial high-rise. This pillar literally sets the exact DNA of the build. If your planning is flawed from day one, your entire structure is going to lean.
Okay, let's dive into this next part, because decision-making acts as the core engine powering that entire planning phase. Planning is absolutely not a passive activity where you just sit around staring at a whiteboard. It is a relentless series of forks in the road. You can't define a strategy without making a decision. You can't allocate a budget without making a decision. It's the active, continuous engine that drives the planning process forward from just being a mere daydream into a concrete blueprint. And the anatomy of making those decisions follows a really rigorous sequence. Step 1, problem identification. You have to know exactly what structural flaw you're trying to fix. You can't evaluate alternatives or make a final choice if you haven't clearly diagnosed the problem first, right? Only then do you move to step 2, which is generating alternatives, followed closely by step 3, rigorous evaluation, before finally arriving at step 4, the choice. This disciplined, step-by-step process is exactly what separates a true strategic decision from a wild guess.
Section 2. Structuring the organization and constructing the framework.
So now we're moving from the theoretical drafting table directly to the construction site. It's time to get our hands dirty. The blueprints are approved, the decisions are made, and now we actually have to erect the physical steel beams of our organization. We have to take that vision and translate it into a physical reality that can operate in the real world. This pillar is called organizing, and organizing is entirely about structuring the tasks themselves. Notice the verbs we're using here: identify, group, assign, and coordinate activities. Before you even think about who is going to do the work, you have to organize what the work actually is. You're taking a massive organizational goal, breaking it down into logical, manageable activities, grouping them into departments or teams, and figuring out exactly how those activities flow together. And this brilliantly illustrates a crucial distinction that trips up so many managers. Organizing is about structuring abstract activities, whereas staffing is about recruiting, selecting, training, appraising, and developing real, breathing people to fit into that structure. You build the abstract framework first, the roles, the grouped activities. Then, and literally only then, do you go out and find the human talent required to animate those roles. You don't alter the blueprint just because of the people you happen to have on hand. You staff the structure you intentionally designed.
Section 3. Activating the team and powering the system.
Okay, so the framework is built. The staff is hired and trained, But right now, the building is totally dark. It's time to flip the switch. This is the phase where we power on the human element of our structural framework and actually get this incredibly complex machine moving forward. Now, what's really interesting here is the dynamic tension between these two forces, leading versus coordinating. Leading is the stark. It's all about motivating, guiding, and inspiring your teams to move. But motion alone just isn't enough. If everyone is running super fast but in completely different directions, the building is going to tear itself apart. And that's exactly where coordinating comes in. Coordinating is the alignment of those motivated efforts to achieve true unity of action. You absolutely need the motivation of leadership, but it has to be harnessed by the strict alignment of coordination.
Section 4. Measuring the results through the inspection. So, the organization is now live and running, but as any seasoned architect will tell you, the job isn't done just because the front doors are open. We must enter the building inspection phase to ensure that all this incredible activity is actually resulting in a structure that operates exactly as it was designed to. And this brings us to controlling. Now I know, this word sometimes gets a bad reputation, but in management architecture it is a beautiful thing. Controlling is a three-part mechanism. First, set standards. Second, measure performance against those standards. And third, and guys, this is the absolute kicker, correct the deviations. Setting standards and measuring performance means absolutely nothing if you lack the courage to correct the deviations when you find them. Think of a safety inspection uncovering a faulty support beam. If you just make a little note of it on a clipboard and never reinforce the steel, disaster is pretty much inevitable. This pillar is what ensures your building doesn't slowly lean over time until it just collapses.
Section 5. The essential foundation, the bedrock. So, the crucial point here is this. We've talked about blueprints, frameworks, power systems, and inspections, but none of those pillars can stand on thin air. There is a foundational layer buried deep in the ground that bears the weight of every single thing we have discussed today. And if this bedrock cracks, the entire organization comes down with it. Notice how communication interacts directly with every single pillar we've built. Communication is absolutely essential for setting goals, for drafting plans, for organizing activities, for leading people, and for controlling outcomes. It isn't just another task on a manager's plate, it is the vital currency that flows through the entire system. Without clear, transparent, and multi-directional communication, the blueprint is just a secret, the staff is totally lost, and the organization crumbles.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look back at the architecture we've explored in the explainer today: planning, organizing, staffing, leading, coordinating, controlling, communication, and decision-making. Be totally honest with yourself right now. Which pillar is your organization missing? Where are the cracks starting to form in your own foundation? Because by identifying that missing piece today, you can step back up to the drafting table tomorrow and reinforce your organization for the future. Thank you so much for building with me today. Keep examining your structures and never stop improving your blueprints.